The following program is produced and furnished in conjunction with John Gilroy of Lectromech, which is entirely responsible for its content.
Welcome to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy of Lectromech, providing solutions to design, certify, and maintain aircraft wire systems. Every week, John speaks with public and private sector IT experts about some of the IT trends and challenges facing agencies and industry. Now your host, John Gilroy.
Welcome back to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy here on Federal News Radio 1500 AM. In the studio today, we have one of the most popular Microsoft partners in town. I thought we'd bring a couple of these fellows in from Accelera Solutions and talk about Microsoft and the federal government, talk about Azure, maybe Windows 10, talk about the cloud, and talk about how they help my listeners kind of reach some of their goals. In the studio today, we have Terrill Andrews. He's the Executive Vice President. And we also have Steve Weiss, who's the President and COO of Accelera Solutions. Now, I'm going to spell that for you so you can find it in the internet, ACCELERA Solutions.com. Well, that's an easy one to figure out. So before we begin, Terrill, tell us about your background and how you wound up in town here and founding this company.
Sure. I started my career about 18 years ago as a software developer. Microsoft Technologies, really doing web development, work with a number of different commercial organizations, very little federal focus. As my career developed, I got together with some friends of mine. We started a partnership, really trying to figure out what we wanted to do with ourselves as when we grew up, and the way that came out, we decided, hey, we got technology background. Let's all get together and put together a technology solutions focused company and see what we can do. So we took a little bit of background from everybody's, all of the partners' backgrounds, put them together and identified some customers and started to put together our story. Company grew some legs. We hired some people, and the solution focus changed and morphed over time. We've reinvented ourselves a number of times since our inception. And today, what we're all about, cloud mobility, virtualization solutions, primarily selling to the federal government. We do healthy business with DoD, a number of FedCiv agencies, and
some nonprofits as well.
Correct. Yeah. Nonprofits. We've got a commercial aspect to our business. We do a lot of work with local hospitals, law firms.
So that degree in biology from Virginia Tech really did you well for you, this job, huh?
Well, it taught me some things about people. There were a lot of different aspects of that, but for the most part, you're right. I changed course after college, and here we are today. So
it's interesting.
Not a total loss.
Yeah, I once worked with a CTO who had a degree in environmental science from, I think, Virginia Tech. And he couldn't get a job out of school, and then he was brought in as a software developer, and all of a sudden, this interrelationships in an environment, he's one of the brightest guys for cloud management ever because he understands relationships and environments. And I think that's
right. The
whole idea is just to understand the theoretical concepts and apply it real well. And you're being very humble. Let's not forget 2015, 2016, Microsoft Federal Cloud Partner of the Year. You might as well brag.
That's true, right? So Microsoft Federal Cloud Partner of the Year was a new honor that Microsoft, as they developed their federal cloud focus and Azure government came into the market a couple of years ago. We were one of the early adopters and had aligned ourselves, with Microsoft pretty closely. And as a result of that and some relationship that we had with a DOJ customer, we put together a DevOps solution that we're still operating today. It supports a large number of software development activities, out of the Microsoft Azure Government Cloud, and I think that was really what put us on the map with Microsoft and afforded us the ability to win that award. The work that we did there, I think, got a lot of visibility inside of Microsoft, and we got some attention, and that side of our business is really starting to snowball and take off, and it afforded us the luxury of winning the award again last year. So we're hoping for a hat trick on that. And
I hope the listeners know that in the Middle Atlantic area, there's 8,000, 9,000 Microsoft partners there. I mean, you didn't there are three of us, and every year we hand it off. There's some very, very good companies out there. I mean, there's some very aggressive, bright, young. I mean, so this is. I'm not saying it's like the Olympics, but it's maybe like the state championship. Or this is hard to order. This is tough to get, and I really appreciate it. That's one of the reasons I had you in, because you've done something right, and I want my listeners to know, well, these guys did something right. Maybe I'll give them a call and see what's going on.
True. And, I have to give credit to our technology team, right? We've got a lot of very skilled people that really understand cloud well. And if it wasn't for, the efforts of all of us working together and our close alignment relationship with Microsoft, I don't think any of it could be possible. So a lot of kudos has to go to the team. And we're proud of it. I mean, it's certainly something that we like to talk about and let people know. I think we've got a formula that's working right now in Federal, and it's something that we're hoping to take and replicate in a number of areas, and we'd love the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and we'll maybe talk to Steve a little bit and find out what he has to say. Steve Weiss, W-I-E-S-S. Wow, what a background you have. Been everywhere, done everything. Tell us about your background, Steve.
W-E-I-S-S. Let's get that out there, John. My background is a little bit different than Terrill's. I give a lot of credit to Terrill and its founders for starting this company 15 years ago. I mean, that takes a lot of guts to just start a company. My background's a little bit different than that. I'm a University of Florida graduate, go Gators, and I started my career in the United States Air Force as an Air Force contracting officer, did 4 years of active duty, and then 20 years in the Air Force Reserves. Had the good fortune to work for two small businesses where I had a number of different kinds of jobs, from contracting to business development, program management. And then joined a company called Science Applications International Corporation. Spent 18 and a half years at SAIC. Great time, great people, great technology. Then I moved over to work for Jack London at CACI. Spent about 10 and a half years at CACI working with wonderful people and technologies. And then ran into Terrill and his partner, LC, and began a conversation and learned about what Accelera was doing. Again, that Microsoft Cloud Partner of the Year for Federal 2 years in a row was something that absolutely stood out to me. Accelera was known as a best place to work, both up here in Northern Virginia as well as in our Charleston, South Carolina office. So, seeing what these guys built and what they're doing, what they stand for, the quality of the people, the culture, those are the kinds of things, John, that stood out to me and attracted me to move over to Accelera Solutions.
Gainesville's a great place. I interviewed for a PhD fellowship in Gainesville down there. It's a very, very solid, well-respected academic institution. And you pile that on top of 20 years Air Force Reserve, and then working with large organizations like SAIC and CACI. I mean, given that experience, you've seen a lot of good things and, let's say, bad things. And there's individuals that have reputations and individuals who maybe have less than strong reputations. And so when you meet someone like Terrill, all of a sudden there's a connection made somehow, and you decide to take and work with these guys. This is a kind of a interesting relationship here. You come from large organizations to someone like this and grow this company up real well. I think it's going to be a good fit between you two.
Yeah, no, it's, one good thing about being old, John, is that you see a lot of good things and you see a lot of bad things.
Oh, don't I know that?
And, you're just a product of your learning. And so you see these different things. You work with, all sorts of people along the way. I was very fortunate to have some wonderful mentors everywhere I worked. And to me, really what it boils down to is your culture and your character. And that's something that we really stressed at CACI. And, when I met Terrill and I met LC and I met the rest of these folks, that, for me, in the latter part of my career, I want to be part of a company that really believes in their culture and character. And that's what I'm hoping that we can leverage here with our people. And I think that in the end will drive even more customer success.
Been in business for 15 years, and Steve was brought on about 6 months ago. Is that right, then?
That's about right. Yeah, back in, I guess, end of November.
Yep.
And so what was he charged with? What was his marching orders?
Well, so Accelera, we really, as a result of our consulting side of our business, it really helped us develop a lot of depth and expertise in terms of delivering, really point solutions for our customers around cloud, virtualization, and so forth. And as a result of the credibility that side of our business, gave to us, it allowed us to take that past performance, that experience, to the government and explain to them, how, we've got, some very skilled, very, very deep focus in cloud virtualization technology areas, and it allowed us to kind of develop a pure play government contracting program sort of focus side of our business, where we've got the long-term contracts where we're on site, building and maintaining these cloud and virtualization solutions. And so Steve comes from his background in government contracting. We brought him in really to help us sort of escalate and accelerate that work, right? To leverage the great things that our consultants are doing to help grow that side of our business.
Well, great. Let's take a break. We come back, we'll talk about a catchphrase from your website called Reimagine the Cloud and figure out what that means to you and what it can mean to our listeners. You are listening to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy here on Federal News Radio 1500 AM. In the studio, we have Terrill Andrews, Executive Vice President, and Steve Weiss, President and COO of Accelera Solutions. Welcome back to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy here on Federal News Radio 1500 AM. In the studio today, we have Terrill Andrews, Executive Vice President, and Steve Weiss, President and COO of Accelera Solutions. Kind of hard to say on the radio. It's ACCELERA Solutions.com. Tons and tons of Microsoft partners in this area here. Very few get the brass ring. You guys got the brass ring twice. Microsoft Federal Cloud Partner of the Year. So you must know something about clouds. And Terrill, I'm going to really ask you some cloud questions here in a few minutes. But I want to turn to Steve and say, well, why'd you pick this company, and what kind of values do you think you can encounter here, and what are you going to do to help the company out?
So for me, it was all about the people and about Elsie and Terrill, the two founding partners of the company. I liked what they were about. I liked what they built. I liked the culture of the people. And I liked the fact that they were in a space that I think is really growing, and that's the cloud. When I look at Accelera Solutions, I believe they are experts in the cloud. They've been working in and around the cloud for, the vast majority of their 15 years, and that's kind of a new thing. But when you really look at the last kind of 3, 4, 5 years, they're really experts at cloud migration strategies, and that the people of the company really have great experience that they leverage with our new customers. So I think that's really what attracted me, was the ability to come in, kind of work with these two owners, these people, to leverage what they've built and take it to the next level.
I do a lot of workshops and public speaking, and I'm on stage, and people see my gray hair, and they go, "Oh boy, that guy's as old as dust." And I really am. When I was young, you would get on your three-piece suit, and you'd shine your shoes, and you'd go in and you'd beg for that job. You'd do anything to get that job. But now, Steve, what's happening is my students at Georgetown, the graduate students in technology management, they're really careful about who they work for. This whole lifestyle thing, this whole idea of ethics, by the way, is important. And when they look at your LinkedIn profile, they'll say, well, this guy's got tremendous history. You spend 10 years, 11 years, 17 years, different companies. I mean, you're doing something right. And you're involved with Linden Resources as well. So you're getting some pretty good points from my students, just that, stability.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I had people tell me earlier in my career, as I spent 18 years at SAIC, hey, you should have changed jobs 3 times by now. And, I always thought about that. And there were times where I felt like my career wasn't accelerating as quickly as I thought it should. I got those $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 raises every year. I had a young, growing family. I actually needed more money, but I decided to stay because I loved the people I worked for. I was being mentored by wonderful people. And so I stayed a course, and I built a career in 18 years. I had 4 different jobs. I rose to the level of a senior vice president. I worked for the chief operating officer. I had great experiences. I got known as kind of the corporate troubleshooter and problem solver. I went over to CACI, and I was, for the last 5 years, the corporate ombudsman. So I was an independent resource that any employee could reach out to for any issue.
I hate Joe Smith. Oh, really? Yeah, call you up.
And it was probably one of my favorite parts of my job, is that here I could meet all these different employees that I would probably not normally have a chance to meet. I would hear their issues and their problems. There were people that I could help. There were some people that I couldn't help. But at the end of the day, we would sometimes change our corporate policies and procedures for some of the things we learned. So, I've been always about people and culture and environment. And again, that's what attracted me about coming over to Accelera.
That's interesting. When you go to the Accelera website, you're kind of hit with these 3 words, reimagine the cloud. So, Terrill, what does that mean, reimagine the cloud? Like a green cloud? Or what do you mean by reimagine the cloud?
Well, I think cloud is it's evolved over time, and it's still evolving. And so, what we like to do is help our customers kind of envision, new ways to use it, new ways to work, and leverage some of the real, cost-saving, benefits that come out of it, right? And so, some things that what reimagining the cloud means to us is really thinking about your organization, its needs, the direction that it's going, and thinking about how the cloud technologies can be used in new ways to support the changing needs of your organization. For example, video teleconferencing, right? That's a fairly mundane sort of topic, and people just sort of take for granted that these things work. Requires a lot of technology, a lot of hardware, but there are new and evolving solutions in the cloud that organizations, small and large, can leverage to really lower the costs of solutions like video teleconferencing, and as well as disaster recovery, right? So we're working with a NATO customer today, for example, that we're hosting a fairly large deployment inside of a data center that they're spending a lot of money keeping all that hardware going, and what they came to us and said, hey, what we'd really like to have is a disaster recovery solution in the cloud, and maybe one day what we'll do is we'll just fail into the cloud and turn everything off right in the data center. And so, disaster recovery could be a great way for customers to think about, how they're going to leverage the cloud going forward. Disaster recovery is a prime use case for most organizations today. Putting that DR strategy in the cloud can really help you, with your long-term migration strategy. So, reimagining some of these really sort of consistent, IT use cases like disaster recovery in a cloud context, to really help people get moving with their cloud migrations. There's other things that really help customers in the cloud today. For example, automation, right? Big cloud providers, like Microsoft Azure, they've got tools that are baked right into their infrastructures that we use today to help automate some repetitive and kind of simple type tasks, right? And what that does is allows customers to benefit from minimizing costs associated with the labor to do some of these things, as well as using automation scripts to shut things off, for example, at night and on the weekends, right? So why pay for it if you're not using it, right? You got a data center, you got all this hardware sitting there, you're paying for it whether it's on or off. Again, reimagining the cloud to me means thinking about IT in very different ways, and we can help customers understand that. So
if we have one of our listeners working for commerce and they think of Amazon Web Services as a place to store stuff in the cloud, or if they think of Azure as some place to store their SharePoint documents, you can say, well, maybe the cloud can be used for disaster recovery. Well, I never thought of that. Maybe the cloud can be used for communications. Well, I never thought that. Well, maybe cloud can be used for, automating our tasks and workflow. The cloud can do that too. And in this world, there has to be some security here. And Steve, that's what this whole FedRAMP is all about, isn't it? I mean, making things are secure in the cloud. I'm sure you folks have worked with a lot of FedRAMP projects. Absolutely.
And those are just standards to ensure security compliance. And so when you think about the cloud, right, there's not a one-size-fits-all solution. And again, that's another thing that attracted me to Accelera, and it's the people that work at Accelera, is that they really are experts in the cloud. And so because of their experiences, we talk about, hey, I've asked our people, what is our Accelera advantage? And pretty much what I figured out is our Accelera advantage is our people, it's their experience, and it's our partnerships. Partnerships with companies like Citrix, VMware, Microsoft, AWS, NetApp, people like that. So we understand what situations fit your application, your environment, your migration strategy, and we can look at that. We can do a requirements analysis, and we can say, if you take A and B, that's going to get you farther than taking A and C. Most companies that don't have that level of experience will come in and give you a canned application or migration strategy, which might work, but it might not. Why take a gamble? And I think when you buy Accelera, you get an insured, compliant, secure solution that's proven.
That's right. One of the solutions and one of the things you touched on, John, was security. To my knowledge, we have developed with one of our Navy customers, one of the very first CAC-enabled SharePoint Office 365 deployment out there, right? So, what we're doing is allowing the customer, to provide that CAC authentication to, an application that many organizations use today, SharePoint, right? So, CAC enabling the Office 365 version of SharePoint is a new thing out there, right? And it's going to resonate, I think, with DoD customers. And it's just one example of how we're helping drive reimagining the cloud in the marketplace today.
One of the top 5 applications being installed in enterprise servers across the country is ID management. It's called ID Man. Well, guess what? It's already there. I mean, it's like been there, done that. We've got it baked in. So don't need it in the checklist. It's part of the solution. So that's a real good part. Let's take a break. We'll talk more about maybe workplace mobility, some of your partners, and some of your flexibility. I mean, we just talked about Amazon Web Services with you guys. I mean, you love, hate. I mean, what about Red Hat? Do you work with those guys? And maybe talk about Microsoft itself and how they're changing so much. And whole World Congress is coming into town here next year. I mean, this is really a big deal for many of our listeners. You are listening to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy here on Federal News Radio 1500 AM. Our guests today are Terrill Andrews, Executive Vice President, and Steve Weiss, President and COO of Accelera Solutions. Welcome back to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy here on Federal News Radio 1500 AM. In the studio, we have Terrill Andrews, Executive Vice President, and Steve Weiss, President of Accelera Solutions. I got to spell it again, ACCELERA, AcceleraSolutions.com. They are a Microsoft partner. So what? Wait. There's thousands and thousands of Microsoft partners. These guys have won the Federal Cloud Partner Year 2 years in a row. So they've got something. They've got good people, good leadership. Lucky doesn't keep you in business for 15 years. You can quote that from John Gilroy. Lucky doesn't keep you in business for 15 years and growing every year. I think what keeps you in business is listening to customers and hiring good people. And I have 19 graduate students going to sit in a classroom tonight at 5:20, and they're going to try to tear me apart. And I know that, and that's a fair game. And what I'm finding from my students is many times is they're looking at the percent of customers as the potential companies are going to work for much more carefully than even the HR people are. And they're going to maybe look up old Steve, and they're going to look up his LinkedIn profile. I might want to work for that guy. I don't know. Maybe I'll listen to his interview on the radio, and I don't know, maybe I'll see what their tweets are all about, and maybe look him up on YouTube. That's what they're going to do. And they're going to find out about some of your volunteer work. Tell us about this Linden Group, please, Steve.
Yeah, a few years ago, John, I was fortunate to be asked to be on the board of Linden Resources. And Linden Resources is a Washington metropolitan area nonprofit committed to providing meaningful employment and developmental opportunities, even more important, developmental opportunities to people with disabilities and wounded veterans. So to me, there's nothing more important than helping people with disabilities find meaningful important. That's so important to see these people develop and take on any kind of task to have a value. That's what they want. These people want to do things, and we need more organizations that help them find things that they can do that are meaningful, to help them grow, to help support their families, all those kinds of things. And again, you can't do enough to help veterans. I have a very close friend, Carlton Kent, former Sergeant Major of the United States Marine Corps, wonderful human being. He's helped me build my passion for helping warriors, wounded warriors. And Accelera, I can tell you that we'll do anything we can to help veterans as well as wounded warriors.
Oh, great. Speaking of employees and getting good people and attracting youngsters to work for you, you must have some good people working for you, Terrill, and people maybe, I like presentations. I like face-to-face a whole lot. You folks do any face-to-face out there?
We do. Our folks are out there engaging in the market, constantly. One of the more recent events that we attended, one of our folks, David Shimshick, he heads our cloud practice area at Accelera Solutions. Very sharp individual. He was a keynote speaker at a Microsoft meetup recently downtown. The topic of that meetup was how to jumpstart your move to the cloud government edition, right? And in attendance there was a good number of Microsoft partners in the market, as well as government customers. Microsoft was in attendance there, a good number of their people. And David spoke quite a bit about our experience, our techniques around how to move your infrastructure to the cloud. Right, there's a lot of people, a lot of organizations out there that are struggling with that today. It's a little intimidating, right? I mean, there's a lot of questions that people need answered, and David spent a lot of time helping people understand how to answer some of those questions, right? How to take some of the first steps. What are some of the things you want to think about first, right? There, and laid down a methodology for that. Accelera's got a lot of experience with that, and David's just one of the folks that really kind of help bring that to our customers.
I'd like to see him record that and put that on YouTube. That would be a benefit to the whole community, wouldn't it? Yeah, I would like to see that, and other people would be able to evaluate his talents and maybe invite him to speak at their events.
We need to get more out of David in that respect, for sure.
Here's a surprise. There's some people who say that 50% of your marketing budget should go to videos these days, because the number 2 search engine is YouTube. And so if someone wants to work for Steve over here, what they might do is they may go to YouTube and type in your company.
That's right.
Well, I don't know. And that's what they're going to do. It's just, it's so different from when I was young. When I was young, if you made your age, you were pretty successful. Yeah. You were 23 years old making $23,000. Wow, you were killing it back then. But now, whole different set of rules,
Good point.
It's interesting.
You bring up a good topic there. I think you're absolutely right. Videos really help engage. And there was a competition actually at a Citrix event the last 2 years running, actually. So
the demo derby.
That's
demo
right. The
derby,
demo derby, right? And our folks, Chris Eastman, Jose Arvelo, really bright individuals, got a lot of really great talent around crafting videos, and so
use that talent and put it on YouTube and use those keywords. I tell you, because there are people who are listening to this interview now, and if this maybe gets a spark in them, and they go, well, we're not really happy with our current Microsoft partner, and maybe want to call these guys in, but I want to do more research, so I'm going to call anyone because I don't want any pushy salesperson, and you're not going to have any of those. And so what they're going to do is they're going to look and look and look, and they go, oh, maybe, and finally, a year later, then develop a relationship, and then trust, and then something happens. So that's good. Earlier, we talked about hybrid cloud and clouds. So, Steve, maybe you can define this for our audience, and some people don't know it. So, you got clouds, you got private cloud, you got public cloud, you got hybrid cloud. When should you use a hybrid cloud? When a private cloud? Give us some weather advice, please.
Yeah. So, Steve, I'll take that one if you don't mind. Yep. I've got probably more experience with that than
you
most,
want.
than most. Yeah. So hybrid cloud really is the model that most organizations are gonna try first, right? You're gonna identify some key workloads or some low hanging fruit, prime candidates for cloud migration, but then you need a connection to it, right? So if you take something, let's say for example, you've got a financial application, right, that uses a lot of compute. And so the hardware refresh is expensive for that. You want to kind of get off the hardware software lifecycle treadmill with that. You want to move it to the cloud. But you need your people on site in your offices to be able to connect to that application, get what they need from it. So that's hybrid cloud. You take an application, you take some part of your IT infrastructure, you move it to the cloud, and you connect it to your organization so that people can get to it, right? That's one example of hybrid cloud. I'm sure it's debatable.
Because I'm an old guy, I'm going to quote a singer from 1980. There's a guy named Bob Seger, and he wrote a song called Against the Wind. And one of the phrases in Against the Wind is what to keep out, what to keep in. And I think that's the question with the hybrid cloud, isn't it? Is what to keep out and what do you keep inside that you have to be safe? And what is maybe, generic conversation, project management can be kept out, and what to keep in. And I think that's where your skill set may assist our listeners in, okay, let's close the doors here, get a little piece of paper here and say, this is something you can keep in the cloud. This is something you can go outside. And I think this is where people can define it, but really, you don't want to make a mistake in having the wrong thing in a cloud environment.
And that's exactly right, John. I mean, that's where you have to have a dialogue with the customer to really understand what their requirements are. Okay, because again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And I think this is something that Accelera and its people do really great because we have that experience, is we have that dialogue and we'll say, hey, what are you really trying to do? Do you want to do a partial solution? Do you want to make a big jump? What steps, if you want to make a big jump, what steps do you want to do? And how do we do that safely and securely? So, Terrill, I think you agree with that basically that's one of our best things is we can do a requirements analysis, look at your environment, and figure out the best solution to help you adapt to that.
And Steve, when you're sitting in that office, you can say, been there, done that, got the T-shirt for decades, and here's what my experience has been. Well, I once worked with this agency, and they did X, Y, and Z, and this is their results, and you may want to do A, B, and C. I mean, that's why I bring someone like you, bring them in and say, okay, Steve, what have you seen in the past? Well, let me tell you, you've seen a lot.
And, another good thing about being old is you get a lot of scar tissue, and you learn a lot of lessons from both good and bad experiences, and you take away those lessons. And so one of the things that I'm emphasizing with our team is we want to do lessons learned for everything we do, on the good things, on the bad things. Again, this is how you build a culture where people want to work. And again, it's all about the people. And what we're trying to do is build a team and expand a team where, at the end of the day, if we do this right and we leverage this great platform of this team of people, we won't have to recruit because people are going to want to come join the culture and the character and the people of Accelera Solutions.
Hey, I think when you promote the demo derby, hey, come on down and you can spend one day a month working on the demo derby or something like that. I mean, that's going to attract a lot of people.
We'll get you a copy of that. It's a wonderful video. Again, we won that 2 years in a row. A credit to our team. It's a fantastic depiction of what Citrix does for its customers.
I'm thinking that my students may look at your LinkedIn profiles and want to get hired by you, but there are other people who want to, hey, this sounds like a fun place to be. I mean, really, a demo derby, you're going to spend money and promote that. I think that's a nice
And one more thing
way.
I want to add there, John, is that we actually have in mid-May, we're scheduling now because I want to expand our visibility in the marketplace. We've got some great customers that we love. We want to do more in DoD. We want to do more in the intelligence community. We're actually going to have an open house and kind of a job fair in mid-May, and we're setting that up now. And if you can go to go.acceleratosolutions.com/open house, look at our website. You're going to see information about that. We invite people. We have a number of job openings out there. So we're looking to hire the right kind of team of people, engineers, network people, marketing people, business development people.
How about people with experience at demo derbies? Pretty important.
We got those guys, but we'll train you. We'll mentor protege you so you can be the next guys to help.
Well, my son's going to apply right now. That's what he wants to do.
So it's all about people, and we want more people to know about Accelera Solutions, so look for that.
Let's take a break, come back. We're going to talk more about FedRAMP, talking more about hybrid clouds, talking more about the demo derby, maybe rock songs from the 1980s or something fun. You are listening to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy here on Federal News Radio 1500 AM. In the studio, we have Terrill Andrews, Executive Vice President, and Steve Weiss, President of Accelera Solutions. Welcome back to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy here on Federal News Radio 1500 AM. In the studio, we have Terrill Andrews, Executive Vice President, and Steve Weiss, President and COO of Accelera Solutions. No K's in there. It's Accelera Solutions. Of all the Microsoft partners in the Mid-Atlantic area, somehow they managed to get the award 2 years in a row for the Federal Cloud Partner of the Year. We've been talking cloud. We've been talking people. We've been talking Bob Seeger, bounce around. I was at your website this morning with, guess what, AcceleraSolutions.com. And I noticed that you work with a lot of partners. And I wrote down some of the names of the partners. One is Nutanix. So Nutanix Enterprise Cloud Platform. So what's that got to do with Microsoft? Nutanix, what is it anyway?
So Nutanix is, it's a hyper-converged infrastructure. They're making big strides in the market today. It's a pure play virtualization platform that converges compute, storage, into one platform. We position that with our turnkey solutions, our virtualization solutions in the market today when customers are looking for something with a small footprint and high performance. It's absolutely a key part of what we offer today.
Well, in the commercial world, in the financial industry, they're very, very popular. And Nutanix is. It's secure, it's safe, it combines a lot of functions, and you can put it behind a firewall or outside the firewall. So it gives you a lot of flexibility, doesn't it?
That's right. It sure does, and it's hard to argue against it, right? I mean, the cost per compute is second to none, right? So we pitch it with all of our turnkey solutions today.
Steve, I see your background many years. The CACI, SAIC, the Air Force, all kinds of experience. So you've seen everything, you got got all the things you've seen, good news and bad news and everything else. So I'm going to get the crystal ball out here, buddy, and you're going to have to predict. You're going to have to predict what's going to happen in the next 5 years. I think it's a reasonable assertion that there's going to be changes in the federal government in the next 2 or 3 years. That's a reasonable assertion. Could be bad, could be good. It's possible that maybe agencies may have their budgets curtailed. It's possible. So how's that going to impact the cloud? Good or bad? Are they not going to go to the cloud because that's going to force them to the cloud? What do you see, Steve?
No, I think cloud is the logical solution. I think we're on that path now. It's been a little bit of a slow path in the last couple of years. Early adopters, Amazon's pretty much dominating the market. You got Microsoft there, you got Google coming in, you got a lot of players there. I think this is only going to accelerate. And I think if you talk about the next 5 years, I think it's easily going to triple from where we are today. Again, people don't want on-premises solutions. They don't want to have the hardware and software lifecycle refresh. They want to move that data. And the question is, how do you do that safely and securely? And I think the companies that really understand that, have the experience, are really going to be in a great position during the next 5 years.
Terrill, the funny phrase from a few years back was server hugger, and now I'm hearing app hugger. No, I'm going to put my app on the cloud. Well, guess where it is now anyway. So server hugger, app hugger, cloud. So what have been some of the key resisting factors you've dealt with in customers in the federal government? Why have they been refused to move to the cloud? Is it price? Is it security? So what's been the resistance?
Well, it's a different model, right? I mean, the classic model is moving things into your data center. You've got your people there to kind of take care of everything for you, and it's changed, right? The human aspect, I think, is first and foremost. It's something that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but cloud can be an enabler. It can be a cost saver, and a lot of times what is lost is the labor, right? But the way we approach that problem with customers, what I like to do is sit down and talk with them about, hey, what are the top 2 or 3 IT initiatives that you would love to be spending most of your time on today, that would really drive value for your organization, right? And what if I could tell you, I could give you the time that you need to do that? You've got a lot of really great, trained people, skill sets. You've got relationships with these people, and they can really help drive value for your organization. Why not use their time, the people that know your organization the best, to focus on those high-value IT initiatives and carve off, a lot of the mundane, life cycle type work that you spend a lot of your time today working on, right? Peel that off. Let's move some of those things to the cloud and allow your team and you to focus your time on high value initiatives, right? So, to me, I think the security concerns are waning, right? I mean, as you talk about these DISA Impact Level 5 data centers that are coming online, it's really more the human aspect, right? And we just try to get people focused on the things that are going to add the most value for your organization.
Earlier, you talked about DevOps, and you said it very easily and talked about like hamburger, hot dog, potato chips, DevOps, and some people know what DevOps are, some don't. So how do you define Dev? And there's meetups in town on DevOps about once or twice a month. So What is a DevOps, and so what? I mean, what does it mean to my listener?
Yeah, so DevOps, like cloud is a broad term, and it can mean a lot of different things, right? So and it's really supporting the software development lifecycle, and DevOps. There's a spectrum of that, right? There's the very sort of manual end of the spectrum where you've got people building all of the software development infrastructure, your test environments, and things like that. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got full automation, right? Where you've got these really complex software tools that are really help driving the software development activities. And there are solutions all along the spectrum in there, and so. DevOps is a prime cloud use case today, and we've got a number of customers that we're supporting DevOps in the cloud today, and we've got some customers, larger customers where we're operating at multiple places along that spectrum, right? Doing some of the manual work, but also some of the automation, to help minimize costs and kind of drive time to market for these software development activities. So.
I've been arguing with software developers for decades now, and when I think of a developer, I think of someone who works all night long until the code's done And when I think of an operation person, it's someone who's pulling cables. And so what DevOps does is it takes those two skill sets and puts them together. And what happens if the cable pulling are virtual and the cables are now in the cloud? And so that skill set is still there. So DevOps is kind of a intriguing way to manage this. Maybe this is the new definition of a tool set that's required. And let's face it, 15, 20 years ago, you couldn't get a bachelor's degree in DevOps. And maybe there'll be specialization in the future. But this is increasingly a skill set someone who's comfortable with speeds and feeds and someone who's comfortable with HTML. And this is a difficult skill set to find.
It is. And the way I like to envision it, today, 20 years ago, you did software development, you moved a bunch of hardware into your data center, you installed operating systems on it, you configured it all, you networked it, you did that for your development environment, you did that for your test environment. A lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of time involved in that kind of thing. What the cloud enables is automation and rapid deployment of infrastructure, of code, and then the software development, the DevOps tools that you layer on top of that really help kind of speed the movement of the software development product from your development environment to your test environment to production. So it's really cut a lot of time out of the whole process, and we see it every day. I mean, we got software tools coming to market on a rapid basis. Every time you open your on your phone, you got the App Store. There's new applications there all the time, and DevOps in the cloud is really an enabler for that. And so we're out there supporting our customers in a number of ways today.
Do any of your customers talk about containers? Is that a topic that's important? I know it's trending in some areas of technology.
Sure, containerization is absolutely a topic of conversation. Accelera doesn't focus specifically too much on containerization, but one of the interesting things that it's doing for a lot of our customers, it's allowing customers to decouple applications from operating systems. So that gives people a lot of flexibility in terms of where they want to put their code, and it just kind of makes everything related to applications more portable, and more agile for the organization.
Right in the strike zone of DevOps people, I would think it almost goes hand in hand in many ways, because this is a container that can work in physical different environments, and both skill sets are needed to understand how to leverage them.
Correct.
Oh, great. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. This has been an interesting interview. You have been listening to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy here on Federal News Radio 1500 AM. I'd like to thank my guest, Terrill Andrews, Executive Vice President, and Steve Weiss, President and CEO of Accelera Solutions. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate it.
You've been listening to Federal Tech Talk with John Gilroy of Electromech, providing solutions to design, certify, and maintain aircraft wire systems. If you miss any part of this program, you can hear the entire show on our website, federalnewsradio.com. Federal Tech Talk only on federalnewsradio.com and 1500 AM.